Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Do you like this game?
So for those of you on screen who are wondering why we're laughing, we misunderstood our amazing tech person's cue, Jacob, and we thought we were live a good 45 seconds ago, and we were not. So we had a whole conversation that those of you on screen did not hear.
Yeah, we'll just start again.
So we'll start again. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Now you're in unison. It's exciting. And we are so thrilled to be here, to have Shabbat, to have this sacred time and sacred community, to be back in the sanctuary. For the last many weeks, we have been alone in the sanctuary, just three of us. And it's a little lonely.
Very strange.
It's very strange. And so now seeing your faces and knowing that many of you are out there in internet world with us is really special. And not only is it special to be back in person, it is special because this is Kol Nashim Shabbat, one of the most beautiful Shabbat services all year. And so let's sing that specialness with our opening song, which is Shiru Ladonai. Those of us in person can find that on page 13 and 14. And those of you at home, it's going to magically appear on your screen. Deb, I was so distracted by missing the cue, I forgot to be present in this space. So I'm going to back up a little bit and just set our intention, set our space for this Shabbat, and ask everyone to take a really deep breath in and release. And with this next deep breath in, I ask you to take a deep breath in, and when you release, to release all that was hard or stressful or anxious of the week. And with this last breath, to breathe in the sweetness, the beauty of Shabbat. And as we've set our space and set our intention, now we continue with lighting the Shabbat candles and offering Kiddush. It is a real pleasure for me to invite forward here to our candles and our Kiddush, our president of Kol Nashim, Shelley Nair, who will also then continue with the opening reading. And we'll continue on page 3.
O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter this sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love.
Yeah. You were close. You had the right idea. Do you have the lighter back there? It's okay. Let's use this one.
Okay.
Oh. Just a minute. This is a non-tech problem. We haven't had a non-tech problem in a while. That's pretty good.
It's called being a class.
No, it's okay. I should have lit this for you and handed it to you.
Yeah.
So bear with us. We will be there shortly. Any luck? Ah, there's one. Okay, Brett to the rescue. Thank you, sir. Some people do anything to get into a production, right? Thank you. There you go. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
The heaven and earth were finished in all their array. On the seventh day, God finished the work that God had been doing, and God stopped on the seventh day from all the work that God had done. And God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy, because on that day God ceased from all the work of the creation that God had done.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Barei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu Zikaron lemase v'reshit Ki hu yom techila lemikrai kodesh Zecher letziat Mitzrayim Ki vanu v'acharta V'otanu kidashta Mikol Hamim V'Shabbat Kodecha Be'ahava uvratzon Hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat Amen. L'chaim.
It grows dark. I light 2 candles and drink a sip of wine, and the world changes for one day, if I let it. There will be music and friendship and food, if I allow it. There will be Torah and wisdom and godness, if I permit it. There will be quiet and napping and deep rest, if I open up to it. There will be study and expansion and new ideas, if I consent to it. There will be prayer and blessings and meditation, if I give into it. There will be hope and renewal and clarity, if I walk toward it. If I let it, if I allow it, if I permit it, if I open up to it, if I consent to it, if I give into it, if I walk toward it. The world changes for one day. Shabbat happens if I let it.
That beautiful reading was by Tricia Arlen and obviously was not found in your prayer book and was on the screen for those of us at home. We turn now to our call to worship. It is the Baruch Hu. It is found in your prayer books on page 28. It says to God, we've warmed up a little bit, which we need to on these bitter cold days. It also says to God, we are ready to pray. Please rise in body or in spirit.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Vaed.
Page 30. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim. Page 34, we find the Shema, the watchword of our faith.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
Eden?
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavcha hayom al levavecha Veshinantam levanecha vedibata bam beshivdecha bevetecha uvlechtecha vaderech uvshochbecha uvkumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha vehayu letodafot beinenecha Uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru ve'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'item kedoshim lelohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim lihiot lachem le'Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem.
It's a pleasure now for me to invite forward Ellen Weber and Deborah Light to come forward to offer an interpretation before we sing Micha Mocha.
We cannot merely pray. We cannot merely pray to God to end war, for the world was made in such a way that we must find our own path to peace within ourselves and with our neighbor. We cannot merely pray to God to root out prejudice, for we already have eyes with which to see the good in all people, if we would only use them rightly. We cannot merely pray to God to end starvation, for we already have the resources with which to feed the entire world if we would only use them wisely.
We cannot merely pray to God to end despair, for we already have the power to clear away slums and give hope if we would only use our power justly. We cannot merely pray to God to end disease, for we already have great minds with which to search out cures and healings, if we would only use them constructively. Therefore, we pray instead for strength, determination, and willpower to do instead of merely pray, to become instead of merely to wish, that our world may be safe and that our lives may be blessed.
An inspiration to sing, to listen to, my goodness, to listen to before the Michamocha, to remember that the Israelites were free, and so we have so much work to do so that all can be free. We sing together, page 40. Shkivenu is our evening lullaby. It asks God to provide a shelter of peace upon us, that God be for us a sukkot shalom, a shelter, a sukkah of shalom, whether it be peace or wholeness, whatever it is we need at the time. We sing together.
Keep
It's so wonderful to hear all of your voices. It's really makes Shabbat. So we turn to the Amidah, the Tefillah, which begins on page 46 with an intention, a refocusing of our prayers and our words. And then the first prayer is the Avot v'Imahot, remembering that we stand upon our forefathers and our foremothers. Without them, we would not be here today. And then a prayer of God's greatness, the strength of God, and then a prayer about the sanctity of this day. For those three prayers, we stand in body or in spirit. Please rise.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare thy praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, Vezocher Chastei Avot ve'Imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei v'Neihem, Lema'an Shemo be'ahava, Melech Chozer u'Moshia u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye hakol atah, Rav lehoshia. Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim ve'rofeh cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Micha mocha ba'al gevurot, Umido melach, Melech meimit, Umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lehachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechaye hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, ukedoshim b'chol yom yahalelu chasela. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh.
Our next reading is not found in your prayer book. It will be on screen. It's my pleasure to invite forward Muriel Letterman and Ellen Ross for a poem about giving thanks.
A list of praises. Give praise with the sound of the milk train far away, with its mutter of wheels and long drawn-out sweet whistle. As it speeds through the fields of sheep at 3 a.m, give praise with an immense and peaceful sigh. Of the winds in the pine woods, at night give praise with starry silences. Give praise with the skirling of seagulls, and the rattle and flap of sails, and the gongs of buoys rocked by the sea swell out in the shipping lanes beyond the harbor. Give praise with the humpback whales, huge in the ocean, as they sing to one another.
Give praise with the rasp and sizzle of crickets. katydids, and cicadas. Give praise with the hum of bees. Give praise with the little peepers who live near water, when they fill the marsh with a simmer of bell-like cries. We know that winter is over. Give praise with mockingbirds, day nightingales. Hour by hour they sing in the crepe myrtle and glossy tulip trees on quiet side streets in southern towns.
Give praise with the white-throat sparrow, far, far from the cities, far even from the towns. With piercing innocence he sings in the spruce tree tops, always 4 notes, and 4 notes only.
Give praise with water, with storms of rain and thunder, and the small rains that sparkle as they dry, and the faint floating ocean roar that fills the seaside villages, and the clear brooks that travel down the mountains.
From Living Things by Ann Porter.
As Jews, we are commanded really to give thanks, to notice all of the blessings, all of the little miracles all around us. And this poem is a reminder of all the things we should give praise for. We turn now to Shalom Rav, a prayer for peace, a song for peace, which is on, I forgot to write down what page it's on.
Oh,
What? Page 60? Awesome, thank you. Page 60.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Ki ata hu melech hador lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech hador lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. V'tov be'einecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Tasim Le'olam. Tasim Le'olam.
We take a moment for silent prayer and reflection. It's become, I don't know how many years, but it's become a tradition during Kol Nashim Shabbat to read Torah and for it not to be the rabbi to read Torah, which is fantastic, to have members of Kol Nashim share their skills in reading Torah. And so it is really an honor and a pleasure for me, Susan's already standing there, for me to invite forward Susan Merdler, because she's already ready to go. Susan Merdler to come forward, to have Michelle Brown come forward, and Linda Wolf, our Torah reader and tutor, and the president of our congregation, Lori Rosenberg, to come forward. They will lead us in reading Torah this Shabbat. As we prepare to, the Torah service is all about ascending, all about remembering Sinai and receiving Torah. Assemble the people, men, women, and children, and the strangers in your cities, to hear, to learn, to revere Adonai your God, to observe faithfully the words of this Torah, and observe faithfully the words of this Torah, and let their children who do not yet know it hear, that they too may learn to revere Adonai your God. Please rise in body or in spirit.
Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, haolam, haolam omed. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, haolam, haolam omed. Al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. Al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim.
Please be seated. And if my memory serves, Linda, you are first. And all of you are going to come forward and offer the aliyah.
Sorry, just want to make sure they can hear you.
Getting close.
Baruch et Adonai Hamavorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach leolam vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamavorach leolam vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai Noten HaTorah. Vayered Adonai al har Sinai al rosh hahar. Vayikra Adonai leMoshe el rosh hahar. Vaya'al Moshe. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe, Red ha'ed ba'am, pen yehersu, el Adonai lir'ot, v'nafal mimenu rav. V'gam hakohanim, hanigashim el Adonai, yitkadashu, pen yifrotz bahem Adonai. Vayomer Moshe el Adonai, lo yuchal ha'am, la'alot el har Sinai, ki ata ha'edot habanu lemor, hagbel et hahar v'kidashto. Vayomer elav Adonai lech red, ve'alita ata ve'aharon imach, ve'hakohanim ve'ha'am, el yehersu, la'alot el Adonai, pen yifrotz bam. Vayered Moshe el ha'am, vayomer alehem.
Vaydaber Elohim et kol hadivarim ha'ele lemor. Anochi Adonai Elohecha asher hotzetiha me'eretz Mitzrayim mi beit avadim. Lo yihye lecha Elohim acherim al panai. Lo ta'aseh lecha fezel v'chol temuna asher b'shamayim mimal va'asher ba'aretz mitachat va'asher b'mayim mitachat la'aretz.
Lo tishtachave lehem, velo ta'avdem, ki anohi Adonai Elohecha el. God, I got lost when she moved the mic. I'm gonna start over. Lo. It's a shadow. Yeah. All right. Lo tishtachave lechem, velo ta'avdem, ki anochi Adonai Elohecha el kanai, poked avon avot al banim, al shileshim v'al ribeim lesonai, v'osei chesed la'alafim la'ohavai u'shomrei mitzvotai. Lo tisa et shem Adonai Elohecha lashav, ki lo yenakeh Adonai et asher yisa et shmo lashav. Zachor et yom hashabat lekadsho, sheshet yamim ta'avod, v'asita kol malachtecha vayom hashvi'i Shabbat ladonai Elohecha. Lo ta'aseh kol melacha ata uvincha uvitecha avdecha ve'amatecha uvhemtecha v'gerech asher bisharecha. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai השמיים ואת הארץ, את הים ואת כל אשר בם, וינח ביום השביעי. על כן ברך אדוני את יום השבת ויקדשהו. כבד את אביך ואת אמך, למען יאריכון ימיך על האדמה אשר אדוני אלוהיך נותן לך. לא תרצח, לא תנאף, לא תגנוב, לא תענה ברעך עת שקר, לא תחמוד בית רעך, לא תחמוד אשת רעך, ועבדו ואמתו ושורו וחמורו וכל אשר לרעך. וכל העם רואים את הקלות ואת הלפידים ואת קול השופר ואת ההר השן, וירא העם וינועו ויעמדו מרחוק. ויאמרו אל משה, דבר אתה עמנו ונשמעו, ואל ידבר עמנו אלוהים פן נמות. ויאמר משה אל העם, אל תיראו כי לבעבור נעשות אתכם באלוהים, ובעבור תהיה יראתו על פניכם לבלתי תחטאו. ויעמוד העם מרחוק, ומשה ייגש אל הערפל אשר שם האלוהים.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet b'chayei olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Last week in our tent, in our learning program, on. You missed all of that online. Oh well. So thank you for being one of our first public group Torah readings in 2 years. What a Shehechianu moment. What a special, special moment, and what a beautiful Torah reading. Thank you. So we turn now to those who are struggling, those who need a different kind of blessing, those who are struggling, whether it be a healing of body or a healing of spirit. The Mishnah Berach is found on page 253 towards the bottom. There are so many in our Temple family who may be struggling with illness, physical illness, spiritual illness, mental illness, or all kinds of struggle. As my hand passes over the congregation, I invite you to share aloud the names of loved ones who are struggling, or if you are at home, we invite you to lift up in the chat those who are whom you love, who are also in need of healing on this Shabbat.
Jane, Fred, Michael, and Susan.
We join now in healing song. So we'll now engage in Hagbah, which is lifting the Torah up high so that you can see what we just read, and then we'll dress the Torah and return it to the ark. Please rise in body or in spirit. It's my pleasure to ask President Lori Rosenberg to lift the Torah up high.
Jacob, can you stop it for 1 second? We're going to start that one again. Vezot haTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai beyad Moshe. Now you can play it. There we go. Ivdu et Hashem besimcha, ivdu et Hashem besimcha, bo lefanav birnana, lefanav birnana. Ivdu et Hashem besimcha, ivdu et Hashem besimcha, bo lefanav birnana, lefanav birnana. Yalalai, 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 lalai, yalalai, lalai, 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 yalalai, yalalai, lalai, yalalai, lalai. La 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la.
Please be seated.
Oh, I was going to do Eitz Chaim. It's okay.
So if you'll notice that there's something happening over here to my left. I hope that you'll try to ignore that as I let you know what's happening over here. We are getting ready for a very different kind of sermon, a very different kind of speaker. series this evening. Usually for Kol Nashim Shabbat, we have one speaker, and we invite them. I do a formal bio. We invite them forward. They speak from the lectern. Not this Kol Nashim Shabbat. This Kol Nashim Shabbat, we have two speakers. Thank you, Brett. We have two speakers. And in trying to figure out what to do, we came up with kind of a living room model. And so I'd like to ask Amy Handel and Beth Curtis to come sit over here, and I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. So Amy Handel and Beth Curtis are here to talk to us about In Motion. Let me tell you a little bit about In Motion, and then I will tell you a little bit about the incredible Amy and Beth. In Motion is a community-based group. It's a community-based organization to support people with PD, with Parkinson's disease, to help them feel better every day. Through exercise, art, support, and education programs, they empower people to feel better and do better. And In Motion is an extraordinary 501c3. And Amy and Beth have championed and led, and I wanted to learn more about it, and I wanted to support it, and so did Kol Nashim. So we're going to have a conversation about In Motion. So who are Amy and Beth? This is Amy. That's Beth. Amy is born and raised in Cleveland and attempted Temple Emmanuel, graduated with a degree in social work from Cleveland State University, and married Lee Handel in 1971. She was married to him until he died in 2016. I should tell you, he was an extraordinary human, one of the funniest people I ever met. They had two children, Jeremy and Gretchen. Both are married. She is the very happy grandmother of three, Audrey, Alexander, and Violet. She was a director of JCC Connections, a nonprofit dating service. I didn't know that, Amy. That is a very cool fact. And many other volunteer endeavors, including an active volunteer with Mount Sinai Auxiliary University School and Beechwood High School, and also very active with In Motion. And Beth, I could go on and on with Beth. So Beth is a native of Norfolk, which I did not say right. Norfolk, okay. Devoted her time and energy to helping local organizations achieve their missions. She is a member of multiple foundation boards, endowment committees, and educational programs. She has a varied skill set which helps to nurture both the financial and community support of many area organizations. Beth has been board president of many organizations, including Rainbow Babies and Children's Hospital Foundation Board, Northeast Ohio Association for the Care of Children in Hospitals, Mount Sinai Medical Center Auxiliary, where she oversaw the transition from a hospital auxiliary board to an independent 501c3 organization. She's also past president of Suburban Temple, Kol Ami. She is married to Rand and has two beautiful daughters and 4 beautiful grandchildren. So what I want to do is come over here and sit with you, and we have worked on some questions. So the first question I want to ask you, if you each have only 4 sentences, I'm letting you pause with that. How would you describe In Motion? Who's going first?
Am I going first? Okay. So I would describe In Motion as a holistic wellness center that focuses on the mind, body, spirit, with programming for those with Parkinson's and their care partners, and all of our services are free.
You did that in 2 sentences. You have 2 sentences left.
I know.
Okay.
I haven't finished. Our programming is important, and one of the most important parts of it is that we concentrate on measured outcomes and holistic thinking. This is a one-of-a-kind institution, and it's the gold standard in the Parkinson's healing world.
Thank you. Beautiful.
Beth has a guest towel at her bathroom. It says, "Stop me before I volunteer again." It hasn't worked. I would say it's a Cleveland community dedicated to all of the things that Beth mentioned. I honestly feel that some of what we've accomplished as quickly as we have could only happen in Cleveland. This is a remarkable community that comes together when there's a need and figures out a way to get it done. And the biggest prize to me is that this worked.
Great. Can you share the motivation for In Motion, and why was it important to each of you?
I'm going to have Amy go first.
Well, I joke that it's fear of the spirit world. My husband, Lee, was one of the founders. And actually, I was sort of the caterer at the beginning. I was the cookies and the personnel recruiter. I said, we need a woman high up on the board, and it needs to be Beth. And
Amy gets me into a lot of trouble in a lot of organizations.
What'd you say?
I said, you get me into a lot of organizations and a lot of trouble.
Well, I told you, all you have to say is no. But we assembled an amazing group. The founders were my husband, Alan Goldberg, who really gave us the funds to get ourselves going. Ben Rossi, who was my husband's trainer, who we sent for training after a weekend that we spent learning about Parkinson's. He went to a coach's training and really drank the Kool-Aid and came back as a real proponent of what this kind of thing can offer. Karen Jaffe was a early Parkinson's diagnosis. She was a physician, and next door to her in her office was David Riley, who is our neurologist. He has an office in our building. He's not affiliated directly with us, but he was our medical director at the beginning, and just the synergy of those 5 people got us going.
So when Lee came to Randy and I to tell us about In Motion, it hit a very big chord with me because my dad, who lived in Virginia, had Parkinson's, and he lived with Parkinson's. He didn't suffer from Parkinson's, he lived with it. And he was an athlete, and I had seen how when he would go to the gym 3 times a week and he would work out and he would stretch, how much better he felt. And so when Lee said to us on the same day but in separate situations, he said to me, will you read this business plan over? And I read it and I was like, oh, this is so fantastic. And I said, Lee, I've just come off of being the president of the Rainbow Foundation, and I can give you my time, but I still have a big commitment to Temple and a big commitment to Rainbow, so I can't give you a financial commitment right now. And he said, that's okay. Randy was here earlier, and he said that he can support me financially. He just doesn't have the time. And I was like, oh, that's so nice, because I don't know what checkbook he's using, but so I always like to tell that story to our development committee, because you just never know where your funds are going to come from. So it became just a wonderful place to use my skills. And it was funny because when all the organizations I'd ever been in, they'd been associated with a large staff or big support, and this was a startup. I mean, we met at Corky and Lenny's with Lee and Karen Jaffe, and she was like, we have to have this up and running in 3 months. And we're like, I had never been in a position where I was saying, we have to do this slowly and we have to do it right. And we did. And we brought together people in this community that had the skill sets to do this right. Our first president was Earl Franklin. Earl was the retired corporate secretary of Eaton, when we applied for our 501c3, the people in Columbus said they'd never seen minutes or documents like we had, because Earl did everything to the T. And so that's just that just represents who we are and how we did it. So
Thank you. In what way has In Motion, you've started talking about this already, in what way has it surprised you?
Well, like I said, the first thing that really shocked me was that it worked. We opened our doors initially. We found our trainer, who I had mentioned before, had a gym, and we rented the space next to the gym for our offices and meeting space and group classes. But we also used the gym for large movement classes. But we opened for 3 days a week. We didn't know if we threw this party, if anybody was going to show up. And within a very, very short time, it became obvious that not only was it needed and wanted, but we were going to have to expand our programming. And very soon we became a 5-day-a-week program. We hired a director. We were very lucky to have Judy Peters, who knows everything about organizations, and she was such a great advisor. And Zach Paris, who was my husband's roommate at Yale, was an attorney that helped us with the leases and so forth. In case you didn't catch on, my husband is very difficult to say no to. And Beth was our third president, and we have been blessed with talent and integrity and a sense of purpose that is just so awe-inspiring to me and to everyone who's a part of this.
So just to piggyback on what you said, yes, I think the thing that surprised us was first how great the need was, and how quickly we outgrew our space. And second, that we grew the sense of community and bonds that were formed at all different levels: clients, staff, volunteer, board members, the greater community. I mean, the fact that the greater community trusted us. They invested in us before we had a client walk in the door. Mount Sinai Health, no, they have a new name now, Healthcare Foundation, but they invested in us. The Cleveland Foundation invested in us. Individuals invested in us. And so we were able to make it happen. And the third is how we continue to examine and evolve, always keeping in mind our mission and vision, and challenging ourselves to do what's best for our clients and their care partners so that we can have a sustainable organization.
And I did want to mention that we had been involved with the Gathering Place prior to starting In Motion, and we modeled ourselves very closely on what they had done. And Eileen Safran was tremendously helpful.
So helpful.
We couldn't have asked for better advice or a bigger cheerleader. But again, it goes back to this community.
Cleveland.
When people ask for help, somebody always answers. And we were surprised by how isolating this disease was to some people. They didn't want to talk about it. They didn't want people to know that they were adjusting to it. And the sense of community that was built was one of the biggest therapeutic pieces that came out of this. And while we thought of a million things, that was not really on our radar so much at the beginning.
Yeah.
But it became one of the most important things we do.
Beautiful. What's Jewish about In Motion?
Well, in the beginning, it was mostly the people, to be honest. But, I think it goes to the basic tenets of who we are: tzedakah, repairing the world, are the first things that come to my mind. And personally, some of the things that I learned while being president of Suburban Temple, which was to trust the people, and that sharing and involving people in the story and allowing them to enter into whichever door feels most comfortable helps in building a successful community.
Beautiful.
So,
Thank you.
And one of the other things that is a bedrock of how we integrate clients is education and the value that Judaism places on learning and understanding what you can do, and that you are, with the knowledge that you can gain, able to care for yourself, care for your partner in ways that maybe you hadn't thought of. Right. And this respect for learning is something I've always admired about being Jewish.
Yeah, and I think to do it in a compassionate and humble way, those are also, to me, very Jewish tenets.
Thank you. What do you think is, you've hinted at this, but if you could narrow it down to one thing, what's made In Motion so successful?
The total synergy of and commitment of the board, the staff, the coaches, the participants, everybody that walks through our doors in whatever role they play has an equal stake, an emotional stake, and a real sense of caring. And just for an example, when we got the PPE money during COVID, most of our trainers and coaches donated the money back to us. They didn't keep it, and we were paying them, and they donated the money back. We also pivoted in 48 hours when we had to close into a virtual program. We had every class up online through Zoom, through tapes. People were able to continue to exercise. We did find out that nothing replaces the group setting with the coaches being present. Right. But it was very fulfilling to see when people came back how quickly they regained some of their skills. So it was almost like a lab rat study of what happens when you do and what happens when you don't.
Yeah, I think for me it was like I think it's just part of it is just Cleveland, and it was a perfect storm. The right people came together with a vision and took it not that slowly, but slowly and carefully and planfully. And there was a trust there. So, and it was individuals, it was the philanthropic community, it was our volunteers, our clients. You know, one of the things that was really important to us when we opened was that we didn't want cost to be a barrier, that we were not going to charge for our services, but we have to keep the lights on and keep the building open, and had to we built a new building. And I think one of the things that I'm proudest of is that 42% of our clients are donors. And that's a really huge amount. And we don't do a major solicitation to them. People just come forward and they do what they can in different ways. You know, whether it's participating in our race, and I know there are people sitting in this place that have always supported our race, and so it's really a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It was a perfect storm.
Yeah.
And again, in the 6 short years we've been there, thanks to the passion of the people that are working and learning, we have a place not only on the national stage, but on the international stage. Ben just gave a speech on Zoom to 5,000 people through the Michael J. Fox Foundation. He and our director, Kathy Schwartz, were invited to the International Colloquium. They spoke and taught in Japan. We are, as Beth said, the gold standard, and people refer to us and call us and say, how do you do what you do? And one of the things we've sort of toyed around with is remote learning. But we really feel that the boots on the ground experience is the very best we can do.
So I want to give In Motion a plug for you, which is there's some papers about In Motion. When we call it a goneg now, an oneg to go.
Yeah.
So when you take your challah, everyone, they like that. Yeah. So when you take your challah, at the end of our service, there are papers on In Motion. And if you know someone who is living or adjusting to a Parkinson's diagnosis, In Motion is there. It is present for all of us, and the caretakers as well, care partners as well. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you two here as our speakers, because it is true that not everyone wants to talk about Parkinson's. And I will tell you, as someone who has been here 10 years and still looking a little bit from the outside, we Ohioans are very private.
Yeah.
We Midwesterners are very private. So not everyone shares.
And I just also want to remind people of the website.
Yes.
They can go to Be In Motion, beinmotion.org.
Yes.
And get all the information.
So if you know someone or have someone in your inner circle, please share with them this incredible resource. You can see and feel from the passion just here on the Bima that In Motion is an extraordinary, extraordinary place that is filled with love and compassion and commitment. And I can't thank you enough for teaching us and being present.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Do you have anything you
us.
want to share that I didn't ask about? I'll give you one last second. Put you on
Just
the spot.
that it's been a great honor to be a part of building something from the ground up. That's been just something that's exciting for Cleveland, and for when you talk to people, when you travel, and they're like, I was in Florida last week, and I was golfing with someone, and every single person that I talked to had somebody, either their spouse or their friend, who had Parkinson's, and they wanted to hear about this. And so it's pretty prevalent.
It's pretty impactful.
Pretty impactful. So we
Thank
can be
you.
very
And
proud of our city.
I've learned so much from watching you. I've loved you for 40 years as a friend, but watching you lead this group has taught me so much about being human and wise and compassionate, and I am so blessed that you came on board with us.
Thank you. Thanks.
Well, we are all blessed by the two of you and by In Motion in our community. Thank you.
Thanks for giving us the opportunity.
Oh my gosh, such a blessing. And Deb, our music director and cantoral soloist, has prepared an anthem while we reset the stage. So thank you. Don't trip.
Oops. It's in you. It's in me. The power to emerge into the light from the dark. It's in you. It's in you. It's in me. Talk to every fiber of your being with your heart. It's in you. Oh God, give me the strength. I am tired, but I'm listening. Is it in me?
answers in me. Oh God, give me the courage to risk battling my brokenness. Is it in me? The way is in me. El Narafanallah, 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 El Narafanallah. Yourself, talk inside yourself, be brave inside yourself, have faith within yourself. The strength is in yourself, 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 it's in you. 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 Whoa, it's in you. Whoa, it's in you.
We continue now with Aleinu. It's my pleasure to ask Susan Hirsch to come forward. You may remain seated. You can take your mask off if you want.
And then all that has divided us will merge. And then compassion will be wedded to power. And then softness will come to a world that is harsh and unkind. And then both men and women will be gentle. And then both women and men will be strong. And then no person will be subject to another's will. And then all will be rich and free and varied. And then the greed of some will give way to the needs of many. And then all will share equally in the earth's abundance. And then all will care for the sick and the weak and the old. And all will nourish the young. And then all will cherish life's creatures. And then everywhere will be called Eden again.
Please rise.
ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו, ושמו, ושמו אחד.
We continue now with our time of memory. to one in sorrow. Let me come in when you are weeping, friend, and let me take your hand. I, who have known such a sorrow as yours, can understand. Let me come in. I would be very still beside you in your grief. I would not bid you cease your weeping, friend. Tears can bring relief. Let me come in. I would only breathe a prayer and hold your hand, for I have known a sorrow as yours and understand. On this Shabbat, it's my sad duty to inform the congregation of Dr. Merrill I. Skolnick, father of Nechama Moskowitz. And we remember in Shloshim, in the first month of mourning since their death, Joan Schechter, Lee Power. And we remember the yartzites, the anniversaries of death that fall on this Shabbat. Alexander Fichter Bartow, Rose Bauer, Leon Frank Bialowski, Betty V. Bluffstone, Nancy Lang Castle, Peter Crystal, Baruch A. Feldman, Corinne D. Fields, Stanley Morton Fisher, Henry Friedman, Florence Friedman, Howard Friedman, Betsy Tudor Galvin, Zelta Glick, Gertrude Goldfarb, Jerome B. Goodfriend, Ruth Affelder Goodfriend, Herman Goodman, Mildred Sigel Gordon, Margaret Wise Green, Rose First Green, Mark Jonas, Cecil H. Copperman, Roslyn F. Copperman, Clara Lerner, Anne B. Lutrin, Anne Miller, Milton Prince, Ruth Rand, Firuz Raffaelli, Abraham Rifkin, Sarah B. Rogat, Evelyn Singer, Louis Snow, Tilly S. Stone, Sadie F. Weil, Anne Pearl Weiss, Emil E. Zeisler, Mary Zone. Our griefs and sympathies are mingled as we turn to the mourner's Kaddish, found on page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'alma divrach hirutei v'amlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru, amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach leolam almei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, V'yit hadar, v'yit taleh, v'yit talal, shemei dekudasha barechu, le'ilal min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and give comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say together, amen.
Amen.
Please be seated. It's my pleasure to ask Lori Rosenberg, president of our congregation, to come forward to share in a few announcements.
This time I remembered to take my mask off. A lot easier.
Are you okay with the shadow for this?
Yeah, no, I'm good now.
Okay, so let's,
You want it back?
I want you to use it.
Oh, okay.
We can't hear you.
Well, I couldn't read the Torah without the
I
shadow.
know, I'm so sorry about
Oh, that's okay. That's all right. So I'm going to do that with glasses on and glasses off. Thank you, Rabbi Van, Deb, Jacob, Brett, and John for making the service happen, your leadership, the behind the leaderships, the connection to those out in the comforts of their home and on their couches or wherever they may be joining in on services tonight. They were beautiful. And I want to thank Shelley Nair as president of Kol Nashim, helping to make this happen. It is, as Rabbi said at the beginning, a service that we all look forward to every year. It's an important service, and I think it was super important making this the service that we came back to. So thank you for all the work that you've done for the service and for those who participate in the service. And I think I could do it by memory, but I don't want to forget anyone. So I will go through the list here. Ellen Weber, Muriel Letterman, Susan Hirsch, Ellen Ross, Deborah Light. And it was an amazing experience for myself to read Torah with Susan Gordon, Michelle Brown, and Linda Wolf. And it was an honor to be tutored by her at the same time and also chanting with her. So thank you, ladies, and for all that you did for this service. And the service was also important in that we learned more about emotion, or for those who really didn't know much about it, we gained that experience and that knowledge. And yes, Cleveland can do amazing things. I'm a Clevelander born and raised, but it is so amazing to see the things that members of Suburban Temple, Kol Ami can do. So thank you for what you've done. I've worked in the special needs community, so I understand in that it's amazing what you've done. And so thank you for sharing that. Thank you for the work, and thank you for being members and leaders of our congregation. And then on to the announcements. We have a few. We did put into place our vaccine policy, so those of you who are coming into the building for our tent or for services do need to have your vaccination cards on record, and you can upload them, or you can bring them in when you come for programs or services. And thank you all who have just really adapted to this and done so already. And believe it or not, with all the snow that we have, we are now starting to plan to make Hamantashen for Purim, and that will be February 6th on Sunday will be the first baking date. So think about that, and that's for any and everyone. And the new book for our Torah study is Pirkei Avot. And if you're interested in joining that, an email to Rabbi Van will get you connected. And it's another milestone in our congregation. Moving on to something else. So yeah, for sure. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Stay safe and stay warm. Oh, yeah. That was maybe for the time that I changed it with.
All right. So we have a closing song, and our closing song is Non Como Vuestro Dio, and it is on page 327. It is Ein Keloheinu in Ladino. Ladino is Hebrew, and
it's primarily Spanish with just a little twist, although you'll recognize it if you speak Spanish. It seems this song anyway feels like 100% Spanish.
And it is known to be Flori Jagoda's song, really.
Yes, it is. I don't know if anybody noticed that we did a lot of songs that were written by female composers tonight in honor of the Women's Shabbat. So this is another one that Flori's known for. So.
Ein Keloheinu, ein Kadonenu, ein Kemalkeinu, ein Kemoshienu. Non como nuestro Dios, non como nuestro Señor, non como nuestro Rey, non como nuestro Salvador. Mi Eloheinu, mi Adonenu, mi Malkeinu, mi Moshienu, quien como nuestro Dios, quien como nuestro Señor, quien como nuestro Rey, quien como nuestro Salvador. No del Eloheinu, no del Adonenu, no del Malkeinu, no del Moshienu. Lo haremos a nuestro Dios, lo haremos a nuestro Señor, lo haremos a nuestro Rey, lo haremos a nuestro Salvador. Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu. Bendito nuestro Dios, bendito Bendito nuestro Señor, bendito nuestro Rey, bendito nuestro Salvador. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, Tu el nuestro Dios, Tu el nuestro Señor, Tu el nuestro Rey, Tu el nuestro Salvador.
Please rise for the benediction.
Yevarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha.
May God bless you and keep you.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka.
May the light of God's presence shine upon you and be gracious to you.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha ve'yasem lecha shalom ve'yasem lecha shalom.
May God lift up each one of us, and may God bring us shalom, peace, and wholeness. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. And we're going to have a quick motzi.
Yes.
And Chala is out in the lobby for the rest of us.
For our goneg.
Yes.
Right? Here we go. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our prayer is humbly said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.